Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Hi, it is Stacy. This is Loving My Veteran, and we are walking in my shoes this morning. I'm in the middle of a horrible bad hair morning, but it is what it is this hour of the morning. So I want to say good morning to everybody. Let's see if I can get this so I can see things a little better here. There we go. Everybody grab your coffee. Let's get settled in. Today is Fabulous Friday. We always look for fabulousness going on. You know, we have a week. We start out now with Motivational Mondays, and in the week, bookend that week with Fabulous Fridays, because we just need to know that we are fabulous. We need to learn to look at more than just. Good morning, Sarah Kim. The crap that we've dealt with, and sometimes we need reminders and motivation that we are still fabulous. In amongst all the doo-doo, we are fabulous. So let me have another couple sips of coffee here. Give people a minute to jump on, because I'm like almost on time. It's not just a miracle within itself. And so I'm going to have a little more coffee this morning, and we'll get on it. So it is important that everybody remembers that we're fabulous. You know, we've talked over and over and over and over and over again about how many seconds are in a day, and how many moments we have in a day, and how many moments go on in our lives. And we tend to get ourselves so caught up in what is negative in our lives, overwhelming in our lives, because overwhelming tends to create negative feelings. Now, just because you're overwhelmed doesn't mean that you're having a bad day. But when you become overwhelmed, you become mentally drained. When you have a cup, you have a vessel, you only have so much that you can pour, right? There's only so much that you can pour out of this vessel. You only have so much to give. Yeah, this is the cup, and when I pour it all out, the cup is empty. Okay? So just think about this. This is my cup, and when I pour it out, it's empty. So take the concept of you've got a bunch of people hanging around, and everybody's going to have a glass of tea, because here in the South, we drink sweet tea. So you got a big old pitcher of tea, right? And you made a pitcher of tea because there's 4 people that are going to be sitting there. Good morning, Melissa. Because there's 4 people that are going to be sitting there at the table drinking tea, and you got the tea on the thing and you're pouring it. Well, now all of a sudden you've got 3 other friends who've come up. Now they're all getting some of your tea. And now there's some more people who've come up, and they're all getting some of your tea. What happens to the tea that you had already brewed for the 4 of you initially? That tea becomes gone. And that's what happens in our lives. It doesn't mean that you weren't having a good time drinking the iced tea with the people you had. But what happens is when you are overwhelmed and there's too much coming in and there's so much going on, and you give a little bit here, and you give a little bit of yourself there, and you give a little bit of yourself somewhere else, and you give a little self somewhere else, your vessel is now empty. Okay? So you just need to keep remembering that we become overwhelmed when our vessel gets empty. We become overwhelmed. It doesn't mean that you're having a bad day or a bad week, but that overwhelming feeling creates negativity. That overwhelming feeling creates negativity. So I don't know how many times that I get up, and I do it all the time, I have a list of things we have to do. We need to accomplish this and this and this and this and this, and God forbid they add stuff to our list. I mean, things just get added. Life goes on and gets added to your list. Yesterday was a prime example. Simple day. Run to the doctor for follow-up after surgery. Something simple. They're going to say, great. He's got to write me a few prescriptions. Life is good. I get into the doctor's office. He says, I don't like the way your leg's swelling. You need to go to an ultrasound. I'm like, what? Now? I had plans. See, my mama's here from out of town. And so we got the she's going to see the grandbaby, the great grandbaby, and me, and us. So that was our plan. And Carl had stayed home because it was just a doctor's appointment, which he said he'll never do again. But anyway, they call and say, "Hey, I need you to go get an ultrasound now. If the ultrasound comes back clear, we got to do a CT tomorrow. But you're allergic to contrast, so you need to go get your medicine." So my run to the doctor, going to be half an hour most in and out, has now come. Go to the doctor, go to the hospital, get the ultrasound done. Now the ultrasound's clear. Now I got to go pick up the prescriptions to cover me for the other. Riding back home. Mom says, "Hey, you guys want to run down?" I'm like, "I'll run down." So I ran down to go see my mom and all them. Ran down there. I get there. I'm probably there 15 minutes. And the doctor's office calls and says, "We need you back at the hospital in Waycross." It's like a 2-hour drive for a stat CT. I'm like, "But I'm allergic to contrast." They're going to pre-medicate you in the ER. So I'm back. We get Carl. Carl and I go to this stupid thing. It takes forever to get the IV. Takes forever to get the dye, and then they got to leave it in. They got to the stuff in. Then they got to let you stay to make sure you're not having an allergic reaction. So by the time we come home, it's 1:00 in the morning. And I'm like, damn. I wasn't mad at anybody. Nothing went on that made me mad. Nothing was not like blame. It was just stuff. It got in the way. It became life. When I got home at a little after 1, I fell on the couch and was like, I'm exhausted. I was emotionally done. I was physically done. And so I became a little snippy. Carl was emotionally done. Send me to go to the doctor. He should have been there from day one. I'm like, oh my God, you couldn't have been there from the very first minute. It was fine. He knew it was going to turn into this. But I feel like I failed. So now he is done. Nothing bad happened. I'm fine. Leg's still here, body's still here, life is still here, my things are still coming out my mouth. I'm good. But our cups were empty. And when your cups become empty, you get negative. So what you need to do, this is what today's about. It is about looking at the victories and where you've poured out of your cup. Where have you poured out of your cup? Right? So what I do is I make a list, what we got to do. And when you sit back and you go through, and people kind of just look at me like I've lost my mind when I do this, but I make a list and I go through and I'm like, okay, we did this or we did that. And I do it in my day planner a lot now. I've accomplished this, and this. I may not have accomplished everything that was on my list before, but I've done part of what was on that list and then added new stuff. And when you do that, you celebrate your own victories. That's the part that's important. You can't get so wrapped up in the overwhelm, becomes negativity, becomes anger. Look at what you've accomplished. Look at what you've done. We're not talking about your veterans. I mean, I love our veterans. Y'all know how I feel about all of our veterans. I love them. They're like amazing. But we need to talk about us. We too have to be healed. We too have to be uplifted. We too need love. And you know where that love comes from before anything else? And I'm going to tell you, this is a little secret about your veterans. Your veterans are hard-pressed to love you if they don't learn to love themselves. You're going to be hard-pressed to love anybody else if you don't love yourself. So look at what you've done, what you've accomplished. Sarah Kim, you have so much going on. I mean, I know you're packing, you're showing a house, you got your husband, you got your daughter, you have all this stuff. You feel like it's all being dumped on your shoulders. So the negativity's just got to push you down more and more and more. You need to break through that. You need to write down what you've accomplished during the day. You need to make a list of what you've done during the day, and you need to put it somewhere where you can see it, where you can remind yourself that I am good and that I had a fabulous week. I had a fabulous day. I had a fabulous hour. I had a fabulous moment. They're all important. Fabulous Fridays. That's what we do. We take into account all of our fabulous moments. It makes us. It's what helps restore us. When have you loved yourself? And I'm not talking about the kind that you buy at the store, that kind of love. When have you really, really loved yourself? When have you wrapped your arms around your soul and said, I'm good. You matter to me. And you've accomplished this. And Sarah, what I'm going to tell you, this is great. This is like, Sarah and I have like our own private little session over here. But I'm going to tell you something else. You get a whiteboard, you get a something, and you start writing this. And I mean, put it where you can see it. Put it where you can see it. I don't care. I got a little whiteboard, came from the Dollar General, probably $5. Put to do and did. Right? So you got your to-do list, and it's got the things you absolutely want to accomplish, and you might get them all done. You might not. Who cares? And then you have your did list, things I did. So you could have moved some of those to-dos are going to get moved over to the they were done list. And then you add the other things, which is all the shit that pops up in daily life. Right? So now when somebody says, well, what happened to all the tea? I don't know. 19 of you came in and drank the damn shit. That becomes your answer. You know, I love it. I love it when I had it my whole life. One of his mentors. What happened to all the money in the bank? Well, are you kidding? Let's see. The lights, the rent, the lights, the mortgage, the car payments, the insurance. Oh, yeah, you had to go buy this, and you had to go buy this, and then you wonder why we have no money. Well, duh, because you spent it. In case you're interested, we don't run like the federal government where I can just keep putting the ATM machine card in and it keeps spending out money. And if I don't have enough, they just make more and stick it in the ATM. That's not how the real world works. So you have to understand that you need to know where you're giving yourself. What are you giving yourself to? And when you start looking at, this is where I am giving my energy, this is what I'm accomplishing, it motivates you to realize you are amazing, because we have to love ourselves. You got to feel fabulous. You got to feel amazing. You have to feel that coming in. If you don't feel, Carl's words, if you're not good for yourself, you're not good for anybody. How do we expect to receive love and empathy if we don't give it? How do we expect not to be short, have our veteran be not to be short and snippy with us if we're overwhelmed and we're negative and we're wherever? How do we expect to get that positiveness we want back if we become overwhelmed and we become short and snippy? You get back what you put out. It's just a thing. You get back what you put out. So when you take that with you, and that overwhelmed feeling with you that you're putting out, you're putting out, you're putting out, you're putting out, and that overwhelmed feeling, and it starts out great, and things start out wonderful, and things are going right along, and then you become overwhelmed, and you become exhausted mentally and physically. Exhausted, and I'm going to tell y'all, mental exhaustion will take more out of you than physical exhaustion, hands down. Hands down. Hands down. When you look at all of that, you begin to see what is going on. You begin to see that these are the things that are exhausting me, but what have I accomplished? And when you look back at the end of the day and you look at what you've accomplished, you can sit back and smile. And sometimes, y'all, sometimes what we accomplish isn't a physical act. Sometimes, as my friend little Sarah Holbrooks told us, she got done with work, ordered a pizza, sat in her jammies, and ate it in bed. Sometimes your accomplishment is taking time out for you. Sometimes your accomplishment is, I knew I needed 20 minutes for a walk, and that was my accomplishment today. And that's okay. You have to recharge. You have to refill. You know, and I'm not meaning to offend anybody here who might own one of them little things, but I'm really trying to understand the concept of an electric car. I know this. If I want to go somewhere, my mom's is like 8 hours away. Right, if I want to go to my mom's, I just pull over, put gas in the truck, keep driving. Oh, well, you need one of these electric cars. Okay, well, how far do they go? 300 miles on a charge. What? Right, so I watch these people, which I think is hysterical, by the way, when they pull up to the recharging port, right? So they're now sitting there with their little car plugged in. And by the way, that little car plugged in isn't free. Just so you know, they pay for that electricity. But they got their little car plugged in, right? And they're sitting there, and they're sitting in their car, like reading a book or on their little whatever. And I'm thinking, y'all people just took 30 minutes, 40 minutes out your day to go another 200 miles. This is nuts. Let's get to where we're going so we can go on. And I think about that, and I just kind of laugh. I'm like, well, it's new and improved and better, and I got to stop and plug it in. Y'all lost your mind. I got to be where I got to be when I got to be there. Now think about that, though. If you look at them, they're sitting down. They're reading a book. They're doing something. Maybe they're taking time for themselves. Maybe that's that minute they're taking time for themselves. So kind of think of your body and your mind as that little electric car that can only go so many miles, and it's got to be plugged back in, because that's what happens with us. We can only go so far, and we have to be plugged back in. We can only give so much, and we have to be recharged. And you have to learn to do it before the thing is empty. Because I read this in the thing, we were talking about Teslas, and I was reading it, and I said, the battery life on the first set, it gets way better miles per charge, I guess is the new thing they figure out, MPC, I don't know. That the battery life is way better in the beginning. And I'm like, okay, so the battery life is way better in the beginning. Well, what happens? I mean, if I buy a car that is going to go X number of miles per charge, in 2 years, I don't want it to do half of that. That makes no sense. When you read further, it says, without regular charging, that you're not supposed to let those batteries get below a quarter. So how often do we stop to recharge our batteries? How often do we take that break and recharge us? How often do we refuel? And anybody will tell you too as well, the gas light in your car, if you drive in a gas car, that dings, is not the sign to get gas. I take it a lot of times as like my personal challenge. Oh, the gas light's dinging, how far can I go? You realize that every time your gas tank gets ick in it, right? Just especially if you're in a place where temperatures change a lot, you'll get all kinds of ick in your gas tank. When it gets to that quarter of a tank or less, your fuel filters can suck it up and cause all kinds of issues. So don't ever let your car get below a quarter tank. That's what they always tell you. But that's the way we should, if we don't do it to our cars, if we don't let our cars get below a quarter per tank, y'all, I will go into cardiac arrest almost if my cell phone gets below a quarter charged. I just like freak out. But if I can take the time to make sure that my car has gas in it at a quarter tank, and I make sure that my phone is charged at a quarter tank, then why can't I find time for me to recharge me and look at, even if I'm busy, and even if I'm not talking about that I don't have to physically go take a nap, I don't have to physically go take a walk. Why can't I at that moment sit down with my little day planner where I'm writing what I've accomplished? Why can't I take 15 minutes out of my day and write, this is what I did today, to recharge my mind and to recharge my spirit? Why can't I do that? I can, and I should, and we all should. Take time out to recharge you. Because you are fabulous. You do so much. You overcome so much. You're responsible for so much. We tend to find that we do for so many people that we give everything out of our cup, and then we're like holding it, waiting for the droplets to come out to give to somebody else. And then I'm like licking the sides to see if I can get the last little drop of coffee out. That's insane. Okay? That's insane. You're right. And sometimes there is no meter that tells us that we're getting there. But if you make it a habit, remember that thing that you do for 21 days in a row becomes habit? Doing an action for 21 days in a row becomes habit. Good or bad, by the way. So if you are bitchy for 21 straight days, you've become bitchy becomes a habit. Right? So get that. If anything you do 21 days or more becomes a habit. So if you were bitchy for 21 straight days, bitchiness becomes a habit. If you take mindful time to recharge, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it is you need, but make a mindful time to recharge. And I don't care if it's put your headphones in so loud that nobody else can hear you. Whatever works for you. But that's when I sit down and I write down my accomplishments. Because then it becomes a habit. And my habit now becomes learning to love myself and learning to realize my self-worth and learning to realize that I have given, and it lets me see what I've accomplished, and therefore I can recharge and go on. Because if you don't, overwhelmingness, okay, if you don't, overwhelmingness takes over your life, and overwhelmingness turns into negativity. Sharon, I do too. I do a daily check-in with myself every morning before meditating and praying, and it is so helpful. I agree. I do a daily check-in with myself, and I do it every night before I go to bed. Every day, without fail. And when I find myself feeling overwhelmed, I may take a few minutes at lunch. Well, whenever we eat lunch, because I'm like weird, but I may take a few minutes and I may say, this is what I've done. I have a thing in my phone. We have notes in your phone. You can type it. I will literally type out what I've done. When you start feeling down and overwhelmed, stop for a minute and say, I am just done. This is going on, da, da, da. Stop for a minute. Write down what you did, even if it's a note in your phone. Then you're going to realize, oh my God, I did all this. No wonder I'm tired. No wonder I'm overwhelmed. No wonder I'm done with this motion. No wonder I need a few minutes. Because I'm telling you, self-accountability is amazing. So Kim, it'll take 21 days to break the habit too. That's the good thing about habits. If you can do it for 21 days and get a bad habit, you can break the habit after 21 days of practicing the other side. Just saying that. But where I'm going is, when you do this, I mean, there's days like I'll get up and I don't think I'm doing anything because I'm one of these strange like OCD, like ADHD, OCD multitasker type people. And I don't know how you get both, but I guess I was cursed to have both. Like, I'll be sitting here and the whole time I'm watching, I'm like, oh, this needs to get picked up and that needs to get picked up. I need to do this and I need to do that. And so you see this little thing and I start out a project and I don't finish it all the way through because I see something else that needs to get done, and I stop what I'm doing and then I go back and then I go back to the other one, and I get exhausted, like mentally, physically exhausted. And you have to stop and you have to say, well, what have I accomplished in the day? And then the next thing you realize is, okay, I've washed all the clothes, I've got them all dried, I've swept the floors, I've mopped the floors, did the dishes. Ooh, cabinets got stuff on it. Let me wipe the cabinets off. You know, just that. And then I'll go in and I'll see that I didn't fold the clothes, they're all laying on the bed, and I'm like, you didn't do a damn thing today, right? Well, I did, but your mentality becomes I didn't do a damn thing because you see this load of clothes sitting on the bed. You have to recharge. You have to go back and look and say, well, why are these clothes sitting on the bed? Well, the clothes are all sitting on the bed because you did all the other stuff. So who cares? That's where your motivation comes in. That's when you need to look at your moments of fabulousness. What did you do that was fabulous? What did you do that was one step to change your relationship with your veteran? What was one victory you created? What was one victory you created with your child? What was one victory you created in your house? What was one thing you can write off your list? Because you live in a state of fabulousness if you choose to. We have to learn to see it. We have to learn to see it. And here's a little thing I'm going to give you. A little eye-opening thing I'm going to give you. Take a day, sometime this weekend, and go sit outside. Right? Just go outside. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever. Find peace in wherever you're sitting outside. And then I want you just to look at the world. Look at it. And I just want you to look at all the fabulousness that's there. I remember a friend of ours, we were talking one day, and they said, what do you think God's favorite colors were? It was about a race thing, right? I think that's how it got started. This was years ago, before the whole protest and whatever. And Everett, who I just never would have expected, as a friend of my mom and dad's, we called him Smokey, he said God's favorite colors were blue and green. And we're like, what? He said, just sit and look. And all of a sudden you sit there. Thanks, Stephanie. All of a sudden you sit there and you look and you see these colors. And the sky's not one shade of blue. It's millions of shades of blue. And there's not one color of green outside. There's millions of green outside. And when you do this and you sit down and you look, you realize you realize that you live in this amazing state of fabulousness. People used to laugh at me because I want to go to the beach. And I mean, I love the beach. Beach is like one of my favorite places. And it's not just to sit up in the sun. I am perfectly happy in October on the beach when it's rainy and drizzly and the waves are crashing and it's all gray and the seagulls are out. I am perfectly happy being there then. And people are like, why would you go to the beach then? Because I look at that moment of fabulousness then. You just have to learn to live in that moment. Because if you don't, you've got to think that fabulousness, your accomplishments, what you've accomplished, what you've achieved, what you've done, what you do, all of those things are amazing and they're fabulous and they are your fuel. Your moments of fabulousness create your fuel. We don't ever think about needing gas in the car or the truck until it's on empty. We all use the idiot lights now. Most of us do. We don't think about if you got the electric car until it says plug me in. I don't even know what it says. I'm still in a whole place with that, but I don't quite understand how that works. But go plug me in somewhere. We don't think about them needing fuel till they're empty. Y'all, it's very rare that I think about needing to buy a gallon of milk until we're out of milk. Or almost out of milk. I do a little bit better now with Carl because he drinks a lot of milk. But I didn't used to. I'd be like, oh, we ain't got no milk. You know, and so you don't think about it till you're out of it. Those are just the things that go on in life. You don't think about stuff till you're out of it. Well, that's what happens with us when we give and give and give and give and give of ourselves mentally and physically. We don't have fuel. It is those moments of fabulousness that we have to take in account for that give us our fuel. It recharges us. Sitting down and reflecting on your moments, and we all have them. I don't care how overwhelming your day is. You have accomplished something. That is your moment of fabulousness. Even if it's ordering pizza and eating it in bed. Okay? That is your moment of fabulousness because you took time out for you, and that is what gives you the fuel. It recharges your mind, it recharges your body, it recharges your spirit. Moments of fabulousness. That's what we look for. Do your list. Put them where you can see what you've accomplished every single day. And I'm going to tell you something else. Y'all, subliminal messaging is one of the greatest things ever invented. It works so well that movie theaters way back in the day had to make them stop. It used to be that if you went to a movie theater, this is back when films weren't digital, they were like on reels. They would go in and they would splice in every so many frames, an ad for the concession stand, a Coca-Cola, a popcorn, the candy, whatever it was, right? And you might have had 30 of these little itty bitty, one frame at a time, dropped in. Well, because they were dropped in one frame at a time, you never saw them. Your eyes never saw them. But subliminally, they were there. And they found that it increased the amount of traffic to the concession stand. So when we sit here and we are overwhelmed in our negativity, right? If you could do that with putting a box of popcorn every third or fifth frame in the movie in the beginning, because they wanted you to buy it up front, right? In the beginning, then people all of a sudden became hungry and thirsty. So if they did that in the beginning and now you do that and you take a minute out and you start looking at, this is what I've accomplished, you're recharging yourself and your mind gets over the negativity. It is the way it works. It helps you become a better you when you can look at the stuff in your thing. But here's your key. If you hang it up somewhere, not like on the TV where you know they're going to be forced to see it, but somewhere where your veteran passes by, right? In the kitchen somewhere nondescript, maybe on your fridge, whatever. As your reminder, your veteran will see it. They may not say anything to you about it. They may not say, "Ooh, what was that list?" They may not say anything initially, but they're going to see what you do in a day, and they're going to be way less likely to say, well, you don't do a damn thing, because now they know you do. And then all of a sudden they start taking a reminder. And I do my to-do list, like, hey, we got to do laundry today, this, da-da-da-da-da. And I'm going to tell you, most of the time, okay, exactly, victory wall goes in a public place. Most of the time, if Carl sees stuff on my list, he'll do it without. By the time usually that I am done with walking in my shoes, he has done a load of laundry, fed the chickens, picked up whatever needed to be done, starts out on whatever, before I ever get motivated when I'm still doing this. But it comes from talking about, hey, tomorrow we need to accomplish this, and this. And it's taking a long time. I mean, so don't just think that you're going to walk in and sit down and have a conversation and say, hey, tomorrow we got to accomplish all this, and they're just going to get up and do it like a rabbit and just be done, because it doesn't work that way in the real world. It's taken a long time to get us synced on the same page. But it is one of those things that happen in life, and if you start making this list subliminally, they will see it and they'll start paying attention. It works. I can't tell you why. It's the subliminal messaging. It works. Just like Sarah Kim putting your victory wall cards in a place where they can see them. Just where they nonchalantly can see them. And then they're going to be like, wow, you did all this for me. You do all this for me. So find your fabulous moments. Find your fabulous moments. Recharge your fabulous moments. Get yourself together. That's what Fabulous Fridays are all about. Looking at a really long week, good, bad, or indifferent, where you're feeling overwhelmed, take your fabulousness and take into account all that you've done, because the bottom line is you are fabulous. You, not your veteran, not your kids. Yeah, they all may be on their own, but you need to realize that today you are the one who's fabulous. You, not anybody else. It's all about you today. It's all about me. Take that moment and go, it's all about me. Yeah, I don't want me to sing ever. So just remember, we are fabulous. Enjoy it, because you are fabulous. You've got that ability. And no matter what crap comes, your cup is never completely empty. You can always find more, and it's all right. And sometimes finding more means you got to wait for the coffee or the tea to brew. Sometimes it means you just got to take a step back and let them brew. Stephanie, thank you for doing Let's Talk last night. I hope everybody had a wonderful time. I haven't even talked to Stephanie yet. Gonna finish up. My mom will be here the rest of the weekend. Gonna spend some time with her and the babies and all that. The baby. Oh my God, she's precious. The baby. We're gonna spend some fabulous time doing that, and start getting our crap ready to go to Texas. So. I'm Stacy. This has been Walking in My Shoes. We are loving my veteran. Y'all have a blessed and fabulous Friday.